almost time.
Hey there! Welcome to another episode of Galaxy Gardens. My name is Chrissy, and today we're going to talk about seed starting. And here we're in Zone 6B, Massachusetts, so our focus today is going to be on onions, leeks, and maybe some brassicas. We're going to take a look at the envelopes and go from there. I'm not someone who does the last frost date and works backward. I just kind of track it year to year. So come with me, let's check it out.
I've spared you from me digging these out from our garage. This is everything we're going to use for seed starting this year, and for good reason. So I've collected these other types of trays, which, you know, more traditionally see when seed starting over the years. And I've also gone hard on the solo cups. Now, if you are someone who wants to get stuff going and you're on a budget, I promise you these are going to be less expensive than these, especially when you think of stuff in bulk. You might ask yourself, oh, where are you getting these if they're so expensive? They're really not that expensive, but I have, like, every single year, even though I start my seeds, save these from stuff I buy from nurseries because I, go there when the time comes and always find something that I like. And I always struggle with onions, always have to buy onions. This year we're going to try onions, and if it doesn't work, I have some onion sets coming anyways with my potatoes. So this is all I used last year plus a couple other trays. And we're not going to use everything at once, but because this is all I'm going to be using, I'm just going to wash it all right now. So we're going to take it, go get them cleaned up. Basically, I'm just throwing them in some hot water in the tub and soap. And we're going to let them soak, and then we're going to rinse them out. And then you can sanitize them with a vinegar solution if you want to. It's a good idea to wash your stuff between the years. Just in case you had any kind of viral fungal issues, it won't carry on into the next year. I've never had any issues like that with my starts, but I want to show you best practice this year. So let's go throw these in the tub and get them cleaned up. We have everything in the tub here. We have our hot water. I have a sea of cups under here. Yes, they do actually all fit into our little greenhouse in the garage that we currently have our winter garden in. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let these soak in here for like 10 minutes, and then we're going to add a little soap. What I do not recommend is ever using any kind of bleach products on stuff you're going to be growing in, especially not on stuff that you're going to feed animals with. You could use a little dish soap if you wanted to. You could add a little vinegar in here. I'm not really sure on the ratio of vinegar, just because this is a bathtub. But even, going in there, letting the dirt soak and washing it out, that'll be good. Yes, you're going to have some dirt to clean out of your tub, but there you go, now you have an excuse to clean your bathroom. If you're going through your cups and you're finding that some of them broke, like this one, listen, you don't have to throw it out, just dry it off. You can always duct tape it, and it'll last you at least another season. People like to buy more sturdy equipment, especially, if you've been doing this for a while, you're going to keep one growing every year and not give up and just start from the store. Absolutely you can. I'm talking, if you're on a budget, you need to make it work, this will work. Surprisingly, and I haven't written that much on here, this cup I've actually used for about 3 seasons so far before it broke, and it's just a clean break. There's no erosion. Put some holes in the bottom for drainage. We're going to tape this up and reuse it. Yeah, it's going to work just fine for our purposes. I'm gonna say that's a job well done to my tub. Now I'll deal with cleaning this later. Come with me. Now that you have everything clean, just let it air dry. You can see I got stuff double stacked. I'll tell you, as far as seed starting goes, use what you got. By all means, if you want to buy stuff that makes you feel more comfortable, that's going to last a long time, do it, but in a pinch, these cups really, really work. Now, this tray and this tray are really like for eggplants, tomatoes, and peppers for one part of their growth process. So that's why I have different sizes here. Usually I go from here to here to a big cup. Usually the bigger cups for the tomatoes. Now if you can't find these, what you can do is take this kind of cup and just cut it and get the same size. Obviously you need to drill holes on the bottom, but this is what you're going to be left with. And my other trays are drying in another room, but we don't need to go in there. So these will be good to go. There's a lot of them. This is only about a third of my seed starting supplies anyways. So then let's go to the next step.
Okay, so we got our seed cups all cleaned. We're not going to use all of them. We're only going to use a select few. Now we can go ahead and grab our seed packets and our soil. I actually don't have the bag of our soil. I just have some left over we're going to use. But what I'm going to be using today, because I just use it across the board for everything, is the Roots Organic 707. I think it's a solid blend. This is not an advertisement for them. If you have a seed starting mix that you like, or if you want to just buy a pre-made seed starting mix, go do it. Just make your life easy.
Here are the types of onions we're going to be growing, as well as our leeks. So I thought the giant Musselburgh leek would be fun, and we have our large American flag. Up here in Massachusetts, I grow long day onions. What that means is they will only start growing bulbs when you get to about between like 14 and 16 hours of light a day. So when you're starting onions inside and they're long day onions, you really want to keep your light cycle to about 12 and 12, 12 on, 12 off. So our candy onion, I'm going to say it's a Cipollini onion, and our ruby red onion are storage onions, and the warrior onion is a bunching onion. Now when you have short day varieties, if you're down south in the US or anywhere along, similar latitudes there, if you're growing short day onions, keep in mind they will start bulbing when you have about 12 hours of light a day. So if you're starting them inside, you want to keep them between 8 to 10 hours of light on, and then about 14, that's how math works, hours off. So for the purposes of what we're doing, we're going to do 12 on, 12 off. That's a pretty safe bet with seedlings. If you were not putting your onion seedlings with all your other vegetables, you could be pretty aggressive about it and do like 15 hours on, and whatever the equivalent rest of the time is off in the dark. But I like to have everything together, so we're just going to do 12 on, 12 off, keep it simple. Now for leeks, it's a little bit different. When you're growing leeks, you don't really need to worry so much about triggering bulbing because they are just going to do their thing. While they are in the allium family, with onions, they grow differently. So as time goes on, as they get bigger, you can actually hill them up to make this bottom part and keep it white. Generally just giving them good fertilizer, room to grow, good soil, lots of water. That's how you're going to get big leeks. So you don't have to worry about different light times triggering them like you would with the onions. But they do have similar growing times. So let me see if it's on the back here. Let's see. Here we go. So 80 to 150 days from transplant, that's your maturity time. Now, the Cipollini, 95 to 110 days to maturity. Now, when you're looking at days of maturity on the back of your seed packets, that means that's when, not necessarily when you're going to harvest them, but when they're going to start putting out maybe the parts of the vegetables that you want. So let's say in cucumbers, it gives you days of maturity. That's the days you can start expect to see cucumbers on your plants. Maybe for broccoli, days to maturity, that's when they'll start putting out their little broccoli heads, and so on. So onions take a long time. Now, for all of my stuff that is going to take 100 days-ish, I start them early. Now, it's a bit too early for most of our vegetables. We're going to wait about another month for those, but let's take a look at our brassicas. Okay, so I have all of our brassicas here, and we have a number of them. I'm going to get my glasses out. I'm going to read the back of these, because if we want brassicas anytime soon, we're going to need to get them going. So, okay, so we have calabrese broccoli that says 65 days to maturity. Now, I know I said before that I don't really look at our last frost date. The reason for that is it never really changes year to year. I just know what it is. So for this video, I did look it up. It says it's May 8th. I will tell you, a lot more times than not, although that might be our last frost date, it's really not a good idea to put frost tender plants out until the end of May, maybe beginning of June. I've definitely lost stuff before. My rule of thumb is if my tropical fruit trees can't go out, then my tomatoes probably can't go out either, because they appreciate the same minimum temperatures. So that's what I go by. So if you're thinking of what it is today, today's January 25th, even, when these alliums get going, those are gonna be able to go out in like end of March, April. They're gonna be fine. They don't mind the cold. You will have to harden them off a little bit, but that's fine. But the brassicas, they can also go out there. Now, here's the tough thing is when you're putting out frost tender stuff, right, you're assuming it's gonna get warmer and warmer. The brassicas don't like that, and so I've been struggling with them a lot. So my idea is to get them going now, and then 60 days from now, which is, what was it, end of February, end of March, end of April. Okay, maybe put them out in April. Start getting some in at the beginning of May. It'll be before it gets too hot. So let's look at these other ones. So the calabrese, 65 days. I have snowball cauliflower, 70 to 80 days. Okay. Purple of Sicily cauliflower. I got the graffiti last year in Purple of Sicily. Neither of them did good, so I just got some more of the Purple of Sicily because I'm Sicilian. So, but again, 90 days. Let's see, this is a different one. This is a Marathon F1 broccoli. Let's see. Oh, that's cool. It gives you some recommendations for planting them out and what spacing, how big they should be. It does not say days to maturity, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it right up there with the other ones around, 65 to 75 days. Okay, Romanesco, also 65 days. So if we wanna do a spring broccoli and cauliflower harvest, now is the time I'm gonna get them going, and we'll put them in the greenhouse. And here's the kicker though, I'm not gonna plant them in the raised beds. I'm just gonna put them in pots because they can handle some coolness. So we actually have part of our deck on the other side of me here that is north facing. North facing, so when we can put them in pots,
they'll stay in the shade. They'll still get sunlight, don't get me wrong. They'll still get, you know, 6 to 8 hours of sunlight in the afternoon. But when the sun is at its brightest and it's going over our house, it'll keep them from getting too hot back there. I'm actually still figuring out what to put back there. I was thinking of building a like hydroponic table for lettuce, just because that stays shadier. So we'll see. So based on what these packets are saying, I'm gonna give these a try. We'll see what happens. Now, if I were to plant these like I did last year, which was to put them in the raised beds, I think at the end of April, mid-April, end of April, they got too hot too fast, and they got like very long, didn't really get anything from them, so I just gave the leaves to the chickens, and the chickens liked it. So we'll give that a go, and then we're definitely going to be doing a fall planting of these. So here in Mass, if I want to do a fall planting and fall harvest rather, I'm going to get these going in July. So we're not going to do that many of each of them. I'll probably end up with max like 4 of each. I got enough pots for it. I can afford some soil, and that'll be good, and maybe we'll get some of these. Okay, so the time has come for us to get these seeds started. Now, different seeds require different starting conditions. What I like to do with stuff with very small seeds like onions is to do a broadcast sowing and very lightly cover it with soil. Now, this is going to be different than starting, let's say, my tomato seeds, which I like to do the paper towel method with. That's just my tried and true. That's what I like to do. Now we have our clean containers here. These we're gonna get to shortly. We're gonna start with these ones. So you don't have to sit here and watch me do the whole thing. But we're gonna fill these up. When you get your soil together, some people like to sterilize it by baking it in the oven. Otherwise, you can just use it as is. I highly recommend when you're starting seeds to go ahead and moisten it with some warm water before you begin with. And you're at a good consistency. When you squeeze it, only a couple drops come out. That is all you need. So we're gonna go ahead and fill these up. And you're gonna wanna compress the soil in there. Now this might seem counterintuitive. I was always kind of taught to put the soil in there, keep it light and fluffy. You really don't want that, because you want the roots to be able to go down into it, and they actually have an easier time to do that when there's less space, because it keeps them moist and gives them a better chance. Now they're not gonna stay in here permanently. This is just gonna be the first place we're getting our seeds going. I personally don't use heating mats for my seeds, just because my house stays warm enough. These were going to be germinating in the garage, and our garage is gonna be warm enough too. We're just putting them right in to our little greenhouse we've been growing lettuce in. So I fill these about a little over half, maybe like 3/5 of a container full. And then we're gonna do some seeds around in each one. And then for like that extra 1/5 of the container, we're gonna put some on top. So the damp soil is giving them a good chance to get started. And then once you see them sprouting, I don't do a full water, I just mist it on top until they get to a good size. We will eventually be transplanting them out of here into other containers, so this is just one step. So let me go ahead, get the rest of these filled up. We're gonna get some labels going, and then I'll get back to you. All right, there we go. Got all my soil in all my containers. And what type of seed is gonna go in what container? So over here, you can see we have 3 different broccolis that are gonna go in here. That's because I want to
end up with at least 2 per cell because we're going to break them up. I'm not too concerned about the onions because I do have onion sets coming in with our potatoes. So I'm not going to go too wild with those, but I would like to get some going because I'm going to keep practicing them every year till I get it down. Surprisingly, onions can be pretty hard to start in a non-commercial setting. But usually we get them to where they look beautiful, they're doing well, and then I always run into lack of space, and then we end up with some damping off issues or drying out. We're going to try to avoid that this year. So everything looks good. I'm going to put the seeds in there, and then we're going to put a little bit of soil on top, and we don't need to water them in because the soil is already damp. Alright, first up, we have this onion, however you say it, Cipollina, Cipollini. I have no idea. Alright. Our seeds are right in there. So, there you go. And these are uncovered onion seeds, so if you're growing them yourself and saving them, that is just what they would look like. So like I said, I like to do some broadcast sowing, so let's just go ahead and get that in focus. There you go. Do not be afraid to use a bunch of seeds, okay? If you're using more than you think, it really depends on what kind of thing you're growing. Look, we have some left over. So we have all of our seeds in there. You can see a little bit on top of the soil. Don't be afraid to use more than you want. Because if I was only putting like 4 seeds in each one and we ran into an issue, then I'm getting 0 onions. But if I'm doing a little bit of a broadcast sowing here and there's some extras, that's great. I get more onions, all right? It's not going to hurt anything. So we're going to go ahead, now that these are in here, just put a little soil on top. Again, these are not going to be in here very long. And you don't need to tamp that down quite as much, but you do want it being a nice even layer on top. You're just going to go ahead, do the rest. There you go. Here's a closer view of the seedlings, which you can, oh, not the seedlings, the seeds, which you can see in there. So ones that look like little pebbles. You're just going to cover them up. And onions tend to germinate pretty fast. On average, for anything you're growing, anywhere from 7 to 14 days. Unless it's carrots, and then it could be like 14 to 28 days. And cover it up. Now, if you want to use a little bit more soil and just, fill up the top all the way, you're not going to hurt anything. I just find that they break through a bit faster if it's a light amount. For any kind of seed that you're growing, I've always been told go down plant them pretty deep. You really don't want to go any further than about twice the width of your seed. So you can see these onion seeds are pretty small. You really don't need to plant them that deep. Same thing is going to go with the broccoli, which I'll show you in a moment. I want to show you what leek seeds look like because they're quite similar to the onions. You can see similar shape, similar color. That's why it's important to label everything you use, which I'll show you here. I always put the variety and the date that I germinated them on. And that's going to continue for our other types of plants, even as I transplant them, I will keep the germination date on there, or at least when I started putting them to germinate. Here you're gonna see that broccoli and cauliflower seeds are pretty similar. Let's get that in focus. But they're typically round and brown. And sometimes you'll get different colors there. So this is from the snowball cauliflower, which we're gonna do on this whole side, and then the purple cicely we'll put on that side. You'll notice here with the cauliflowers, I did not use nearly as many because I really only want to end up with 2 plants per cell. And if I end up with less than that, that's okay. Sometimes people recommend against transplanting them so many times. I like to do it because I want strong plants. If they can't handle transplanting, they're probably not going to handle other stuff. So put a few on each one. And when you're going to do the broccoli, I'll show you that. We're on the last tree here, and these 2 cells are going to be Romanesco broccoli. And you can see here, very similar to the cauliflower because they're in the same family. Same looking kind of seeds. And they're still small, so we're going to use the same technique as we did with onions, where we're going to put about a little bit of soil on there. All done. We have these under our 20-watt LED lights in here. If you're interested in knowing what those are, just hit me up. I can help you find them. We have everything evenly spaced here. Now, typically when you're starting seeds, depending on how bright your light is, you'll want them closer than not to there. So what I'm gonna do is just lift these up rather than take this down because I don't feel like unplugging everything. And we're gonna get them about this close to the light for now, and then we'll gradually drop it down. That'll help warm up the soil. It'll help make them strong, not leggy, and we'll get going. Now you don't need to do anything with this. You don't need to spray it. You don't need to water it. You can just leave it alone. Set an alarm for tomorrow to check on it at the same time. If you're finding that the top is dry, give it a mist with some water until it's saturated. All right? When they get bigger, then we'll start doing the bottom watering, but we don't need to worry about that right now. All right, we are completely done for now. If anything happens with the onions, I have some sets coming in, which is good. If anything happens with the leeks, again, because we don't have to worry about how many hours of light they're getting, we could start another round of them, even multiple rounds of them, going to as late as like June, and they'll be just fine. And I'll probably go get those from the dollar store. So these are all set. We'll gradually lower them as they start coming in. Like I said, 7 to 14 days for germination, although I expect it'd probably be a little sooner than that since it's in here. Now, if you were gonna do this setup, I would recommend 2 lights on each level. They're on the pricier side because they're LEDs, so when we got them last year, I could only afford 1 on each level. I am considering buying a second one, but this will do just fine, as you'll see as time goes on. So that's it for today. They look nice, and I got them labeled, so I'm excited about that.
All right, there you have it. From cleaning your seed starting supplies to choosing what types of onions you're gonna start right now to putting them in your greenhouse. Listen, if you don't have a little greenhouse like we do, just put it somewhere. They're gonna keep an eye on it, that it's not gonna leak when you water it. And if you have children or pets, where they're not gonna knock it over or just rip everything out, all right? From here on out, and I cannot tell you how excited I am that it's seed starting season, finally. Although I'm not, gonna be starting any seeds for another month, it feels good, man. It feels good. Now I wanted to add on from earlier when I said broadcast sowing. So typically broadcast sowing is like when you're outside and you're taking a handful of seeds and you're just throwing them to the wind, okay? This is more of like a modified broadcast sowing over the soil because we are putting some more soil on top. So something to keep in mind. Now, next steps for me with these onions is to set alarms on my phone so I remember to go water them and check on them once a day. I actually downsized everything we have in our little greenhouse from our winter garden. Right now we're just down to lettuce and the herbs and some celery. So I'm gonna let those keep going. As the spring approaches closer, I'm gonna be divvying up all of the herbs into their own pots so we can find homes for them in the garden when it's warm enough. When thinking of onions too, just to bring it full circle, I'm not as concerned about last frost as I am with when the summer equinox is, because it's going to be the longest stay time there. So if you go look back on your apps, or if you go to like Weather Channel to look at it, you can find out what the day lengths were, you know, for the last few years on any given, you know, date in the summer, and you can work back from that towards however many days of maturity the variety you're growing is. So I think that's more important than last frost date. But I just want to say thanks for checking out all this stuff today. If you want to find us on Facebook, we have a Facebook page, we have a discussion group, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. I'll put all the details below. Just gonna put our Linktree link there. You can find everything. If you want to donate anything to us, so maybe I could get some more shop lights for our greenhouse, or if you want to say thank you, you know, I greatly appreciate that. We expect nothing. We have Cash App and Venmo for that. Or even if you want to get some treats for the cats or the chickens. Anything that comes in is really just going back into homesteading stuff. Anyways, next time I think we'll be able to give you an update about our beer brew. It's a West Coast IPA that Greg made last week, and we'll go from there. So I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.